Hello children, today we are going to begin Act 3, Scene 3 of The Tempest. This scene opens on another part of the island. Enter Alonso, Sebastian, Antonio, Gonzalo, Adrian, Francisco and others. Gonzalo, Bayer Lakin means by Virgin Mary. I can go no further, sir. I cannot go any further, sir. My old bones ache, my old bones are tired. Here's a maze trod, indeed through forthrights and meanders. Maze means labyrinth, a place where a man loses his way. And forthrights, straight paths, meanders, wandering paths. He says we are wandering in a maze. By your patience, I needs must rest me. If you don't mind, I need to rest a bit. Alonso, O Lord, I cannot blame thee, who am myself attached with weariness to the dulling of my spirits. He says, I cannot blame you, O Lord. I am so tired myself that it's bringing me down. Sit down and rest. Sit down and have rest. Even here I will put off my hope and keep it no longer for my flatterer. He says, I am losing hope. The one we are looking for, I think, is dead. He is drowned whom thus we stray to find, and the sea mocks our frustrate search on land. Well, let him go. He says, we are searching on land, but he is lost in the sea. We have to give up and let him go. Antonio, aside to Sebastian, speaking so that only Sebastian can hear. I am right glad that he is so out of hope. He says, I am glad he is so depressed. Do not for one repulse, forego the purpose that you resolve to effect. Repulse means defeat. He says, don't back out of our plan just because it didn't work for the first time. Sebastian, aside to Antonio. Now Sebastian is talking to Antonio and he is speaking so that only Antonio can hear. And he says the next advantage will we take truly. Truly is here thoroughly. He says the next chance we get, we'll do the deed. Antonio, aside to Sebastian, he says, let it be tonight. For now they are oppressed with travel. They will not nor cannot use such vigilance as when they are fresh. Vigilance, watchfulness. Antonio says, let's do it tonight. The men are so tired from traveling that they can't be as careful as they are when they are fresh. Now, Sebastian, aside to Antonio, I say tonight no more. Sebastian speaking so that only Antonio can hear, and he says, yes, tonight we'll do it, and no more talking about this now. Solemn and strange music. Now, solemn and strange music is heard. Alonso says, what harmony is this, my good friends? Hark. He says, what's that music, my friends? Listen. Gonzalo, marvelous sweet music. He says, what marvelous music. Enter Prospero above invisible. Now Prospero enters above and he is invisible. Enter several strange shapes bringing in a banquet. They dance about it with gentle actions of salutation and inviting the king and others to eat. They depart. Now several strange shapes enter, bringing in a banquet table and dancing around it with graceful welcoming movements. After inviting the king and the others to eat, they depart. They leave. Alonso says, give us kind keepers. Heavens. What were these? Heavens, help us. What were those things? Sebastian, a living drollery. He says, a puppet show in real life. Now I will believe that there are unicorns, that in Arabia there is one tree, the phoenix throne, one phoenix at this hour, reigning there. Now, unicorn is a non-existent bird believed to have a horse's body and a single straight horn on its head. Phoenix, a non-existent bird. According to a myth, there is only one bird of this kind at any one time. It lives for, say, 5 or 600 years in the Arabian desert, and then it burns itself to death. And from its ashes arises another kind of the same bird, and the same process is then repeated. So here Sebastian says, now I will believe that unicorns exist and that there is a tree in Arabia where the phoenix lives. Antonio, I will believe both. And what does else want credit come to me and I will be sworn 'tis true. Credit is credibility. He says me too, and anything else that's hard to believe, just ask me and I will swear it's true. Travelers never did lie, though fools at home condemned them. He says, travelers have never told lies, no matter what the fools at home accuse them of. Gonzalo, if in Naples I should report this now, would they believe me? If I told them about this back in Naples, would they believe me? If I should say I saw such islanders, for certes these are people of the island who, though they are of monstrous shape, certes, certainly. He says, I would tell them that I saw natives like these, since they must be natives, who are graceful and well-mannered, even they are monstrous to look at. Yet note, their manners are more gentle kind than most of our human generation. You shall find many, nay, almost any. He says, kindler than most human beings you might find. Kindler than almost any human. Prospero aside means he's talking to himself. Honest Lord, thou hast said well, for some of you there present are worse than devils. He says, my Lord, you are absolutely right, since some of you are worse than devils. Alonso, I cannot too much muse such shapes. Muse, to wonder at. Such gesture and such sound expressing, although they want the use of tongue, a kind of excellent dumb discourse. Alonso says, I cannot stop being amazed by these shapes, by these sounds and gestures, which express even without saying anything, a wonderful kind of silent language. Prospero, aside, prays in departing. Now he says, time to go. Francisco, they vanished strangely. He says, they disappeared in a very strange manner. Sebastian, no matter, since they have left their wines behind, for we have stomachs. Wines, eatables. It's all right. Since they left their food behind and we are hungry, will it please you taste of what is here? Would you like to taste the banquet? Alonso says, not I. He says, not me. Gonzalo, faith, sir, you need not fear. I assure you, sir, there is nothing to be afraid of. When we were boys, who would believe that there were mountaineers dew-lapped like bulls, whose throats had hanging at them wallets of flesh? He says, when we were boys, who would believe that there were mountain people with rolls of skin around their necks with their throats hanging down? Or that there were such men whose heads stood in their breasts, or that there were men with heads in their chests, which now we find each putter out of 5, for one will bring us good warrant of. Nowadays, travelers commonly report that these things exist. Alonso, I will stand to and feed, although my last. Alonso says, I'll start eating, even this is my last supper. No matter, since I feel the best is past. It's alright since the best part of my life was over anyway. Brother, my lord, the Duke, stand to and do as we. He says, Brother, Duke, please have some food. Thunder and lightning. Enter Ariel like a harpy. Now, what is a harpy? Harpy is a mythical monster with the body of a woman and the wings and claws of a bird. So enter Ariel like a harpy, claps his wings upon the table, and with a quaint device, the banquet vanishes. Ariel flaps his wings on the table, and the banquet vanishes from the table. Ariel, you are the three men of sin. Who? Alonso, Antonio, and Sebastian. He's talking to Alonso, Antonio, and Sebastian, and he says, you are three men of sin whom destiny that had to instrument this lower world and what is in't. The never surfeited sea hath caused to belch up you. The never surfeited sea means the sea which never feels over satisfied with what it swallows. So the three of you are sinners, and destiny made the sea belch you up onto this island. And on this island where man doth not inhabit, you amongst men being most unfit to live, where no men live, since none of you deserve to live. I have made you mad, and even with such like valor men hang and drown their proper selves. He says, I have driven you crazy, and many mad people are driven to kill themselves in desperation. Some of the courtiers draw their swords. So he says, you fools, I and my fellows are ministers of fate. Listen, you fools, my fellow harpies and I carry out fate's orders. The elements of whom your swords are tempered means formed, may as well wound the loud winds, or with be mocked at stabs, kill the still closing waters, as diminish one dowl that's in my plume. My fellow ministers are like invulnerable. Invulnerable means unconquerable. He says your swords are useless against us because you can be more successful swinging them at the empty air or stabbing at water than trying to cut off even one of my feathers. My two companions are just as invulnerable as I am. If you could hurt, your swords are now too massy for your strength and will not be uplifted. Massy means massive. Even if you had the power to hurt us, you would find your swords far too heavy to lift. But remember, for that's my business to you, that you three from Milan did supplant good Prospero, exposed unto the sea, which hath requited. Requited means repaid it. Him and his innocent child. But remember that it's my job to remind you of this, that in Milan, the three of you stole Prospero's throne and threw him and his innocent child into the sea, which has now taken revenge on you. For which foul deed the powers delaying, not forgetting, have incensed the seas and shores, ye all the creatures against your peace. To punish you for this horrible crime, the higher powers delaying their punishment, not forgetting about it, have stirred up the seas and all the creatures of earth against you. Three of my son, Alonso, they have bereft and do pronounce by me lingering perdition. Lingering, slow and prolonged, perdition is destruction. Worse than any death can be at once, shall step by step attend you and your ways. He says, they have taken your only son from you, Alonso, and they have ordered me to destroy you slowly. In a way worse than sudden death could ever be. I'll stay with you every step of your way. Whose wraths to guard you from? Which here in this most desolate isle else falls upon your heads, is nothing but heart's sorrow and a clear life ensuing. He says the only way to protect yourself from the angry higher powers which are ready to fall upon your head on this empty island is for you to be sincerely sorry in your hearts for what you have done and to live innocent lives from this time onward. He vanishes in thunder, Ariel vanishes in thunder, then to soft music enter the shapes again and dance with moths and moles and carrying out the table. The shapes enter again, accompanied by soft music, dancing with mocking gestures and grimaces. They carry out the banquet table. Prospero aside, Prospero is talking to himself and he says, bravely the figure of this harpy hast thou performed, my Ariel. You have played the role of harpy very well, my Ariel. A grace it had, devouring of my instruction. Devouring means absorbing. Of my instruction hast thou nothing bated in what thou hadst to say. Bated means omitted. You were fierce but graceful. You said everything I told you to say. So, with good life and observation strange, my meaner ministers their several kinds have done. In the same lifelike way and with the same attention to detail, my lower ranking servants have done what they were supposed to do. My high charms work, my magic powers are all in full swing, and these mine enemies are all knit up in their destructions. Knit up means entangle. They now are in my power. My magic powers are in full swing, and my enemies are confused and running around in circles. They are under my control. And in these fits I leave them, while I visit young Ferdinand, whom they suppose is drowned, and his and mine loved darling. And I am keeping them in this crazy fits while I go to visit Ferdinand, whom they think has drowned, and the young woman he and I both love. Exit above. Prospero, in the name of something holy, sir, why stand you in this strange stare? Now Gonzalo is asking Alonso, for the love of God, sir, why are you standing here staring into space like this? Alonso, oh, it is monstrous, monstrous. Methought the billows spoke and told me of it. He says, oh, it's horrible, horrible. I thought the clouds were talking to me. The winds did sing it to me, and the thunder, that deep and dreadful organ pipe, pronounced the name of Prospero. The winds were singing to me, and the thunder, like an awful organ pipe, roared Prospero's name. It did bast my trespass. Trespass means offense, crimes. Therefore, my son in the ooze is bedded. Ooze, the mud at the bottom of the sea, is bedded, and I'll seat him deeper than ever plummet sounded. Now, what is a plummet? Sailor's plumb line that indicates the depth of the sea. Than ever plummet sounded, and with him there lie mudded. Mudded means buried in the mud. So here Alonso says, it sang about my crimes. Because of my crimes, my son is dead on the ocean floor. I'll go join him there, going down deeper than any anchor ever sank, and lie with him dead in the mud. And he exits. Alonso exits. Sebastian, but one find at a time. I'll fight their legions over. I'll fight every one of these devils if I have to, but one at a time. Antonio, I will be thy second, and I'll back you up. Exeunt Sebastian and Antonio. Gonzalo, all three of them are desperate. All three of them are crazy with despair. Their great guilt, like poison given to work a great time after, now begins to bite the spirits. He says their guilt is finally starting to gnaw at them like a slow acting poison. Those of you who are young and active, I do beseech you that are of suppler joints, follow them swiftly and hinder them from what this ecstasy may now provoke them to. He says, I beg you to follow them and keep them from doing the crazy things their guilt might push them to do. Adrian, follow, I pray you. Follow them, please, and exit. And they all exit. So, children, in this scene, we have seen that Alonso and his company, tired out with searching for Ferdinand, hear a solemn music and see several strange shapes appear bearing in a banquet. Before they can touch the food, the banquet vanishes. Another of Prospero's magic tricks. Ariel convicts the three men of sin. Alonso rushes away, distracted, followed by Antonio and Sebastian. All three are under Prospero's spell.